Today on CollegeTalktv, we have a special guest appearing by the name of...
I'm Jimmy. I have the YouTube channel Jim Doug.
So, what do you call yourself?
I consider myself an atheist. That's probably the easiest way. A humanist atheist, probably.
Oh. So, today we're going to be doing an interview of Jimmy, and so let's start with the questions. Now, what religion were you before you became an atheist?
I was raised a Catholic, and I went to a Catholic church the first 18 years of my life.
So you're actually the third Catholic I interviewed on my channel. Like must be something in the drinking water there, or
yeah.
I don't know, like the
Northeast Ohio water.
Or like what is it, like the stuff they drink out of, like the fruit punch or something?
The punch bowl?
Yeah, Jesus juice or something.
Jesus juice.
All right. So, how many years were you part of Catholicism?
That's what, actively practicing, I was probably 18 years, but an actual believer is much less than that.
So can you tell me about your upbringing, you know, like your family, when it came to like religion and things in that manner?
We went to church every single Sunday growing up, and if anyone's ever been to Catholic Mass, it is one of the boringest things that you could ever go to, so I had to deal with that every single Sunday, and then all the holidays too. So we had I called them bonus church on the Ash Wednesday and Easter and on Christmas and things like that. So I had all those awesome things, and when I was younger we used to say the rosary and stuff, and eventually that kind of faded away. But it was not very fundamentalist, so it was kind of, we just went to church and then didn't really talk about it after. So it was kind of odd in that sense, I guess.
So what was the thing that you liked most about your religion? It's something that bothered you even while you were religious?
Probably the first issue I had with religion, I don't really know of anything that I really found beneficial with it, because I just was so bored with everything that went on with church and church school and all those various things. But the first time I had any sort of problem with it was, I was probably like 10, 11, and I was sitting in my room, and I was, I guess, trying to pray. I never really did it much, and I forget exactly what I was trying to pray for, but I
new
remember,
Pokemon game.
Yeah, I think it was something related to school. It could have been a Pokemon game, because that was big back then, and that was awesome. And I remember thinking, like, why would God give me anything when there's starving people in Africa, or, you know, all these poor people? And I was like, why would I, you know, get a good grade on a test or anything? And I was thinking back on that, I was really surprised I had that thought at that young of an age. But that was like the last time I ever tried to pray, because I was like, why would I get anything when there's this, and I don't deserve anything, when that sort of thing.
Well, he does work in mysterious ways, so
yeah, that's true.
That's what they say. Was there okay? Well, did you have any opinions on those who were not religious when you were religious? Like, do you think they were devil worshippers and, you know, baby eaters, etc.?
I never really had any sort of opinion on them, because I didn't know anyone that wasn't really religious. I remember being extremely envious of my friends who didn't go to church growing up, but they weren't necessarily non-believers. They're just, their parents didn't make them go to church, and I was very envious of them because they could sleep in on Sundays, and they're like, yeah, I never had to go to church. I'm like, you're lucky, because the Catholic Church is mind-numbingly boring.
Yeah, I could imagine. I went to my aunt who married an Irish Catholic. They had a wedding, and it might have been the most boring church service I've ever attended. Now, I went to a church that was predominantly white, but is non-denominational. But they have like a lot of singing and things in that manner. But then when I went to some of my friends' church, which were black churches, it's very entertaining, very energetic. You know, it wasn't
very ritualistic,
and then pass the candle to the next guy or something. No, it was like, no,
cracker.
you know?
Yeah, Catholic Church is very, you stick with your rituals. You have the very rigid schedule. It doesn't change essentially unless it's a holiday. Then it's very little change.
So what made you start this process, and can you tell me more about your path from religious to no longer identifying as your religion? And did you let your friends and family know? And how long did it take until you started to think your religion wasn't as true as you had originally thought? I should have broken that paragraph into questions.
A lot of questions.
Yeah, let's start with
we'll go. Yeah, I think the process started initially when I tried to pray, and I was like, you know, God doesn't. When I was like kind of rejected prayer, and I think that's what really started it for me, because I think the first, I guess, atheistic type thought I had was during confirmation, when I think part of the reason is I didn't actually want to do it because I didn't like public events and dressing up, and that was like the worst of both worlds. And I remember thinking, like, I wonder if I'd have to do this if I told my parents I didn't really believe in God. And that was like when I was like, 12, whenever you're confirmed, because that's supposed to be when you have an actual choice of whether you become an adult in the church or not. And I didn't want to, for many reasons. It was just one of them is I wasn't really religious at that point. But it was something that it wasn't pressed upon me, so I don't think it ever came to light. So it really was probably slower progressing than it would have been if my parents were more fundamentalist or really pushed it more. And it wasn't really until I learned what an atheist was that I was like, oh yeah, like, I'm an atheist. Like, I don't believe in God. And it's like, then it was like an eye-opening thing. And it was probably in high school that probably happened when because nobody ever really talks about that sort of thing, at least in my experience. There are not many atheists that I knew growing up.
Well, you must have read the Bible incorrectly, because God, He has a plan for everyone. And if you try hard enough, He will get in communication with you one way or another. I mean, sometimes it might be a little bit more difficult because some people have, Revel and, cheaper cell phones. But if you have Verizon, God can definitely call you back, anytime.
I think that might be a problem because I had Verizon. That's the first phone I got was with Verizon. So maybe he's with Sprint or something. He changed services.
I mean, you just never know these days.
He didn't like he wants to get that unlimited plan with T-Mobile or something. I don't know.
We'll see. he does have a lot of text messages.
A lot of data usage.
That's a lot of relationships to maintain over a period of time.
Yeah.
Did you encounter any social repercussions for or difficulties externally for becoming an atheist? Like, did you lose a job, friends and family, and also like any internal conflicts, within yourself?
There was never an issue with me personally with it. It's once I knew that it was just like my favorite color is red and I'm an atheist. It wasn't anything that was a big deal. And with friends, I never really had any issues with friends or anything outside of myself, but it was really with my immediate family. They were really upset when they found out that I was an atheist. And
where did we go wrong?
Yeah, that's that's probably one of the reasons my mom got a lot more upset than my dad, because when my mom gets upset, my dad gets upset, and he always said that if your mom's upset, I'm gonna get upset, and if I'm upset, you're gonna be upset. So that's really how that sort of thing went. But it was really internally, and now it's all hunky-dory, and I just don't talk about that stuff around them. But I completely avoid anything religious around them because I know that's a hot button issue, apparently.
You see, with like my family, like my mom and my two baby sisters who are both 13, one's an atheist, or one of my, I think my youngest is an atheist, the other one's like just non-religious, or it seems like she's non-religious. And then every time I come over, they'll tell me like, hey Chris, like she only prays when you're here, so I make a spectacle out of it. So like, they might be praying, and then like they're all smiling because they know what they're doing. My mom, she's not that religious, but like they just do it to make joke, and I'm like, so who are you guys talking to, huh? I mean, so you guys are thinking Jesus, or you guys are thinking Jesus, because he's the one who worked hard to, get I ain't seen no dude named Jesus, cooking up the food or anything like that, but I don't know, but yeah.
We always had to do that, say grace before we eat. I used to always try to like sneak a bite to eat or something before.
The food won't get fucking cold.
That's for sure.
Let's see. All right. All right. So what were the positive things along the way what were some of the positive things that you saw from like coming out or whatever?
I think for me that even though it was extremely negative once my parents found out, that I didn't have to hide it or not talk about it with other people with the fear of them finding out. So in that sense, that was probably the most positive thing, is that I could just be like, yeah, I'm an atheist, and even though I never had an issue with it, I didn't think it was that big of a deal, and I really don't think it is with most people, but I don't have to worry about repercussions because they already happened, essentially, which, good or bad, they're done, so.
How do you view Catholicism now and organized religion as a whole?
I think most Catholicism, I can't really say that, Catholics, and how they're really against abortion and condoms and contraception and like that. That's probably my biggest issue with the church, because with my experience, most of what they taught was more or less secular, where it's just like, be a good person and you'll go to heaven. It wasn't anything too radical, anything I would radically disagree with, except like with the Hobby Lobby when that came out. I remember my church was saying that we should vote for it, or we should support Hobby Lobby essentially because they didn't want to have to give people birth control. And that was when I was in high school, and I was just completely against that. I was like, women should obviously have birth control and have rights over their body, and like really more, I guess, political issues, not really. I mean, obviously none of the stuff in the religion is true, and I don't really get too crazy about that.
Well, you want to know why a lot of the organized religions are, against contraception? This is just my own personal opinion.
Yeah.
Is because if you take away people's access to birth control and condoms, whatever, it's the likelihood of them getting pregnant and having children increases substantially. So if you look at the religion themselves, it's beneficial because the stuff in the religion is so crazy. Like Catholics, they do, they drink the blood of Jesus and
eat his body.
Yeah, but to tell an adult that, like, hey, look, we want to think Kool-Aid is blood, and Wonder Bread is a man's finger or something, and they'll think you're crazy. But if you tell a child that from a very early age, and then you put the fear of hell in their minds, it's very hard to have them think otherwise once they become an adult. So
yeah, it's very hard to convert people when they're adults, and that's why a lot of it. I forget what it was called, but it was some preacher who talked about the amount of time when they're younger where you have to convert them to a religion before they get past, I guess, essentially the age of reason when they're too smart to buy into that.
You gotta circumnavigate around their logic and their reasoning. Like what's his face at the banana man. Alright, so do you have any opinions on being spiritual or being a deist?
A lot of people I know are actually essentially deists, to where they believe in a God, but it's more or less like Thomas Jefferson and like those type of deist people, where it's just like God started it and then doesn't care about it anymore. And those people I don't really have an issue with because they don't have an issue with me. So it's not really, it's just kind of like, yeah, I think God did it, and like, all right, I don't think God did it. And it's like, then we go our separate ways. But with being spiritual, I think any tie into religion is just kind of shenanigans, more or less. But with people like Sam Harris, who are kind of trying to take it to a more secular approach, I can get behind that. I haven't done much reading on that, and that's something that I want to do more reading on. I forget what his most popular Being Spiritual Without Religion or whatever book. I have it as like an ebook on my computer. I just have to sit down and read it. But Sam Harris generally is right about most things, so I'm sure that he'll convince me that being spiritual is good. Right now I'm kind of, I guess, skeptical of it, what it all entails.
Now, when I'm like drunk or high, which is like very, very not often, I do feel like a one with the earth, and I might play like some sort of Disney cartoon, and then it's like watching The Lion King being high. You might have some sort of spiritual experience or whatever. But hey, that's just me. But moving on to the next question, what is the thing that you are most thankful for now and have decided to no longer be a part of when it comes to your religion?
I don't have to go to church. That honestly, like when I was an atheist kind of in high school, and I couldn't, even when I was, I guess, didn't know I was an atheist essentially, I couldn't stand church. Even when I was like 6 years old, I remember just being bored out of my mind. And the first time when I first went to college, I was like, I'm on my own. I don't have to go to church anymore. And I just remember that first Sunday when, like, other times I had missed it before through different ways, but it was like the first time I had consciously like not had to like pretend like I was going and not go, or like this or that. And I just remember like waking up going like, this is what I've been missing all these years, like this like extra 3 hours of sleep that I could just be getting and not have to sit.
Praise Jesus.
And not have to sit in a church for an hour and just a Catholic mass for an hour. I'm sure there are churches that actually engage you, but a Catholic mass is not one of those places.
To be honest with you though, like once I started like to get into high school or whatever, the main reason that I like going to church was because of all the pretty girls there. I'm just keeping it 100 with you guys. I'm just being completely honest that once I got to a point where I started to question it and it got boring, the only reason I kept going because of all the hot girls there, and I'm just being 100%.
And maybe that would have helped with the Catholic mass or Catholic church. There isn't too many young people. It's mostly people who are senior citizens. And
yeah, it was like a youth. It's like a youth high school service. We're separate, and then we don't have to wear suits, and people just dress up or like wear what they wear regularly. You can talk to girls and whatever, get numbers and stuff. It's almost like going to the club and stuff, right?
Yeah, it was nothing. There's no sort of club interaction. I sometimes was complimented, or our family was with how well behaved we are. We're given some candy by some old people, but yeah, that's not worth it. Happened probably 3 times in 18 years, so I don't know if that makes it all worth it. But.
So, do you see the world any differently now now that you're not religious?
I don't know if I really do, because I honestly didn't really think about a lot of the religious things too much before I'd really address those kind of things. I think I approach death a lot differently. That's probably the biggest thing, is I never really thought about it much. I didn't have too big of an opinion, but now I just kind of accept that it's just inevitable, and I don't really view it as a negative thing like a lot of people do. I just view it as, it's, you're born and you die, and it's just like kind of equal for me, and it's different than a lot of people view it. A lot of people fear it, and it's just a fact of life.
Live life to the fullest, that's what I gotta say. And with me, it's just having the freedom to enjoy life. I mean, when I was a Christian, I was thinking that God was watching me 24/7 like the NSA. I mean, he might be in his closet back there or something. You never know. He's watching us 24/7. So, but in any way, did you become a more secular individual? Or okay. In any way, did becoming a more secular individual ruin your life, make you immoral, or make you choose bad decisions?
I gotta say, I mean, if you're approaching it from a religious viewpoint, then I suppose maybe, but no, I like to think of myself as a pretty decent person, and almost now I feel like I have to be a better person, even though I would be fine anyway, but like I almost have to like go that extra step to be extra nice and extra this, because there is that negative connotation with being an atheist. So if I'm like super nice, they're like, wow, even though he's an atheist, that he's really nice, so it can kind of, I guess, help atheists in general if there's more nice people.
All I have to say with that question is that my porn viewing skyrocketed. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, with masturbation, it was something that
you're not blind.
It's viewed as bad, and it was weird. Like once I completely disregarded, I realized that was something that it wasn't actively like told it was bad, but it was something that I viewed as bad. I think because of my years in the church, I thought it was something that you shouldn't do. But now it's just like, it's just natural. It's just part of life now. But, yeah.
Let's scroll down a little bit. Alright, so what would you say to religious people who believe that those who are non-religious are going to hell worshiping Satan or are immoral?
Well, I can go from experience. My one friend not so much thinks that I was going to hell or anything, but thought that my life didn't have meaning, which is kind of related to, I guess, being immoral and like this or that. Like, what is the purpose of your life if you don't worship God? And it's like, to get the most out of life and to, be as good as a person as I can do and kind of maximize my time here, because that's all I get. And it's backwards, because I would think the religious person would be like, oh, I don't have to do this or that because I have, I have a second chance. I have, heaven or whatever to go to. And there's not pressure for them, but for me there is, because if I run over someone or something, then and I sit in jail my whole life, that's it, like I'm done. And for me that's kind of scary in a lot of ways, that you just get one chance at a lot of things.
When I hear people say that, atheists worship Satan, why would I? It's like saying that, oh, well, if you, because like let's say everyone worships Batman or whatever, but then they think, well, because you don't worship Batman, or you don't believe that Batman's like, a nice...
You worship the Joker.
Yeah, you worship the Joker or Two-Face or something. I mean, if I don't believe in one character in your book of fairy tales, and why would I believe in the bad guy in the book? It's just.
I hear a lot of people like, why do you hate God? And that was the last video I made. Is like, the guy's like, why would you date someone who hates God? I'm like, I can't hate God just like I can't hate the boogeyman, or I can't hate things I don't believe in. Like, it doesn't.
Why do you hate using your brain?
Yeah.
I mean, it's just like that, because to say I hate something that doesn't exist, it's like...
Yeah. And like, I can hate the religion, I can hate the things of religion, but like to hate the mythical beings of a religion, to me doesn't make any sense. Like, it is a non sequitur for me, I just can't do it.
Did you enjoy the stuff that, did you enjoy anything about your religion whatsoever? Maybe you had friends or a community or volunteer activities.
Sounds like I'm just dogging on the Catholic Church, but I don't know if there's anything I really enjoyed. It was just unbelievably boring, and I cannot emphasize that enough, that just sit there and just be bored out of my mind and just cannot wait. And I've had classes that are boring, I've been at different events, but there is nothing that tops a Catholic event. And I think that maybe that's the one benefit, is that when I'm bored at other things, I'm not as bored as I probably would be naturally if I had never gone to a Catholic Mass, because I've grown numb to those kind of things. So maybe it helped me out in that way to where I can be bored more easily.
And also too, like it's weird because like I'm part of the Secular Student Alliance of Akron,
Yeah.
and I would say almost 50 to 60% of all of our members in the group are ex-Catholics. Now it seems that Catholicism might, in some way, shape, or form, just be very boring, and it makes people just not want to be a part of it no more. And I think that's why people, leave Catholicism and become atheists, because they're like, wow, I can be doing anything else but be here.
I think a lot of people leave that and then kind of go to more of the deistic route because they don't want to be, whatever part of religion that they're part of they don't like, or it's really boring, and they just they still want to believe in God, but they kind of go in the more secular approach to where they don't want to be part of a church. So I know that I have some friends like that are now like they believe in God, but they never go to church, which I don't have a problem with them. They're usually fine about most things, but yeah.
Alright, so what do you recommend other religious people who may have questions, doubts, skepticism do? So like if someone's on the fence about, I hate this shit, I don't really believe it, like, my girlfriend, wife, or whoever, drags me here, and I don't want to, whatever, like, what would you recommend?
I think the biggest thing is to talk about it to someone that will hold you to, it doesn't necessarily even have to be an atheist or whoever, it's just someone that's going to hold you to a logical progression of thought. Because if you're like, well, we look designed, and then someone can call you out and saying, well, this and that is wrong with that line of reasoning or that thought, then it can kind of lead you to wherever you want to go, because maybe you really do think there's reason to believe in design or whatever that you want to think. But as long as you have someone there that will question what you think, it can kind of get you to think more deeply about what you may naturally believe in or what you were taught to believe in. Because that helps with like evolution and things like that. If someone like can explain to you, this is why we aren't designed, or this is wrong with this, then you can kind of make your own decision. And essentially that's what it comes down to, is you eventually just got to think for yourself. That's probably the biggest thing, is just thinking in general.
To some that might be difficult, but
For many.
Right. So this is the final. Well, actually, this is the final interview question. We're going to talk about some stuff. But what amazes you about the universe as a secular person?
With space, I think just how amazingly vast, and just all the science shows that you see with, listening to Neil deGrasse Tyson talk, and like all these different people explain these complex topics. And probably the recent book I read with Lawrence Krauss, The Universe from Nothing, just to try to contextualize that in my mind, it hurts because I'm not that smart in that sort of area, and just to kind of think like, how could something come from nothing, how as he describes it, and just those sort of things. That's what's amazing to me. When you think God did it, then it's so boring. It's like, exactly. It's such a finite ending, but it's like, it's like we had the Big Bang, and then it's like, what happened before the Big Bang? And like, let's go find out. Like that's what Lawrence Krauss is doing. It's like that's what's interesting to me, is you see what they continue to progress with, because I think a lot of that's just going to be an infinite regression. We'll never know the exact beginning. It'll just be an infinitely more discoveries, but every discovery, I find it even more interesting than the next, or than the last. And
to be perfectly clear with you guys, when it comes to the beginning of the universe, I personally feel that for like physics and stuff, they can work on explaining it, but at the end of the day, it's not going to affect my day-to-day routine if I don't know how this universe begun. It's not like, oh, well, let's say, a 30,000 foot tall, Xenu or something clapped his fingers, and then the universe. It's just, to me, it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, there's a vast universe out there, and I think that we can explore it. We can come in contact with other civilizations and alien races or whatever. Because even though I'm not a conspiracy theorist or whatever, I think that the probability of there being life out there, or there isn't life out there, or the probability of there not being life out there, it's like statistically like 0, I would say, because it's so vast, and like we're just a little speck in a cosmic array. But yeah.
I think from the math standpoint, I think there is probably some, whether there's life that, I don't want to call us intelligent because that's very subjective, but on the same kind of cognitive awareness that we are is very unlikely. But to have like, really small bacteria or like single cell, I think there could be stuff like that on other planets. Will we ever find it? Probably not.
Well, I think that there might be some sort of a hyper advanced civilization.
And there very well could be. And statistically, if you look at how big the universe is and the number of planets, there very well could be. But I think to have how we think of intelligence and like how we are, I think that if there's some form of hyper high intelligence, that it's a completely different manifestation of that. Yeah. And then we would see it, and they might look like a deer to us. Like we look at a deer, we don't think it's anything impressive, and then they would look at us and not think of anything impressive. So I think that's where it's the most interesting thought to think about life outside our universe, is that it could have developed in a completely different way, and instead of maybe carbon being like the base of it, it's some other element, even though it would probably be carbon, since that is the most common thing. But
yeah. So tell us a little bit about your YouTube channel.
Well, my YouTube channel is very similar to Chris's, where he'll talk about a lot of current issues and talk about religion and things like that. And one of the things I'm trying to do now is to kind of add more humor into a lot of my videos, and to add more funny videos. Still have kind of more or less serious videos about different things, but a lot of my videos are about news stories, and then like religion, and also education, because I'm an education major, so that is a big interest of mine. And I think in the future I'll add other topics, but I kind of like keeping that centralized theme and then just finding things to talk about. And that's probably the biggest thing why I wanted to make videos, and why I continue to make videos, is just for the discussion that it creates, and I can kind of question my thoughts, because I can like, here's my opinion, and someone's like, you're completely wrong, because even on my last video I didn't understand a word, or I didn't use it correctly, and someone's like, this is what that word means, and I'm like, I learned something. And that's what's great, because I mean, we don't make that much money on YouTube. It's not like we're billionaires or ever going to be self-sufficient on this sort of thing, but to just get information and learn from other people who have similar viewpoints or are completely different, that's why I want to do. And that's what, I mean, if you look at my channel, leave a comment, because I don't really care if you look at my video. If you leave a thought, then I'll definitely...
May I have your attention, please? This is a reminder that the library will close at 5 p.m. today, and that all laptop computers are due back to the first floor laptop desk by 4:45 p.m.
You want to just start over like the YouTube part, bro? Actually, we don't have to. I mean, that was sort of funny.
Yeah, I mean, that's basically it with that. It's like news stories, religion, education. It's basically whatever I want to talk about. And I just like interacting with people online, because that's a lot of times you don't see people like Chris a lot, to where the people want to talk about, I call them like deep topics, or like political topics, or any of these topics. People don't want to talk about these kind of things. They want to talk about daily lives. And frankly, I'm not really good at that kind of thing, and I don't really care, if you went to the store today or not. I want to talk about...
I'm secretly Batman behind closed doors, in case y'all didn't know, but keep them down low, you know what I'm saying? But yeah.
See, that would be something interesting. That, I don't know, but...
Like I'd be like a YouTuber by day, and then like a superhero by night.
There's 2 different channels, you're Batman, and you post all your videos at like 3 a.m.
So we're going to go get the Joker.
Okay, Mom.
See you later.
So the Batman. Yeah, he's a pretty cool dude. We've been communicating through YouTube, just up like probably I would say like a few months or so.
About, yeah.
He's probably the most chillest person that I met through YouTube. I mean,
we grew up 15 minutes away from each other.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It's a wonder I never met him somewhere else, but
yeah. But and yeah, so if you guys see, if you guys are watching this video right now, please subscribe to him. Check out his videos. He's a really cool dude.
Leave comments.
Yeah, he's definitely someone you guys should go check out. So, thanks for watching, and have a nice day.